Alright, my Tabor City home here with you. I've been digging in this transmission, trying to figure out what's going on. And definitely had my first find. I'm not going to say it's the only issue that we're going to have, but I had my first find. If you look here on the torque converter, you see that it has these two notches, these two ears, if you will. Those ears themselves match up with the hydraulic pump that goes on the front of the transmission. And this is the side of the pump housing that you would see when you remove the torque converter and get everything apart. One of the things you'll notice down there is there's two little notches inside there themselves. This is the middle gear to that pump. And if you'll look, you can see right here, there's another set of ears. But if you look, those ears are gouged out. You can see some burrs of metal on there, both sides. And everything I'm seeing says it shouldn't be that way. The material should be completely up to this level throughout this entire shape, and that in turn is what would sit here on top of the torque converter, and then they would mesh together in this particular manner. And as the torque converter turned, that is what would provide power to the hydraulic pump. However, what it appears is that the gear to the hydraulic pump, the torque converter and the hydraulic pump are never properly married together, seated, and so what it allowed it to do was it allowed this gear to just basically have some room and spin, and so the ears would actually pass one on top of the other. My suspect on this is that what happened was somebody delved into this transmission, which, you know, I've told you guys before, but my best guess is that whoever did it, now I don't know that this is the only problem that we're going to find, but that whoever did it did not place the torque converter on the hydraulic pump and then push the tractor back together. So they did not know definitively that the torque converter and the pump were married together and seated properly. So what they did was they attached the torque converter through the flex plate to the flywheel and then pushed the tractor back together, and never had a true positive marrying up of those two parts, and that has allowed the torque converter to eat through that hydraulic pump. I will say that would mean those little wings there on that torque converter are exceptionally strong. Still not convinced that we don't need to replace the torque converter, the hydraulic pump, and the clutches. I only want to break this tractor one time. I don't want to have to come back and do it again. So my current thought is that that's what I'm going to end up doing. As you can tell, delve in here a little bit further into the transmission. This, which goes to the valve body that controls the shuttle shift, this particular rod, if that's what you want to call it, was actually really difficult to move, and I had to get it moved in order to get a cotter pin out that hooked this whole thing together. And ultimately, because it was stuck out to about that much further than what it is right now, what I ended up having to do is take a pair of channel locks, because I couldn't get in there with a wrench. It was, I think, 1 1/8 inches. I had to get in there with a pair of channel locks and just back this off a little bit. I did not back it off all the way because I don't know if there was a spring in there, and I didn't want anything spring loaded jumping out of there. But I backed it off a little bit, and that allowed this to slide all the way in and allow me to get that cotter pin out of there. Right now I'm just working on getting this plate off of here so that I can see what's behind it, and ultimately hope to get down to the clutches and get a look at those clutches today. But I do believe we're going to have to get inside here and figure out what's going on. I know there's a ball and a spring in here and another plunger and a spring in there. And I want to go through, since I'm going to go through it, I want to go through the whole thing, take a look at it. Going along with thinking that somebody's already been in here once is this gasket right here looks amazingly intact. I mean, you can still, in some cases right here, still read the lettering of like the part number on the gasket. That thing looks almost brand new to me, which again, you know, doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy. But what it does say is that potentially somebody's already been in there and replaced clutches, which, you know, would be okay if they were done properly. And that the problem here was that they didn't properly marry the tractor back together. So, I don't know. We'll see. But we are getting further along in the process, and that's a good thing. All right, so, Tabor City home. My Tabor City home. Hope you guys have a great day. See you later.